Welcome. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you for listening. Thank you for the donations and all that kind of stuff and the well wishes. I'm okay. I'm fine. I just got busy with some business. Let's get started. Coming off this MLK holiday, I can think of no better time to implore us as black folks to set the record straight on Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. You know, I've had to sit down while I'm doing my business and just be a listener to a lot of black YouTube. And one thing that comes up constantly, no matter what type of YouTube channel I'm listening to, no matter what type of podcast or what type of, medium I'm listening to, if there are black hosts, there's going to be something. It could be anything, the smallest of things that trigger a black host of a YouTube channel to go off on an anti-black rant. There's usually always some long Dalshim's arm on a strong punch reach of a false equivalency of something in order to justify black mistreatment. There's usually a whole lot of rearranging of Earth's history on some DC Comics shit to make it seem like black folks historically have just been fuck ups and we deserve what we get, right? There's been a whole lot of omission of the truth, and sometimes it goes on overload. I was listening to one of my favorite boxing channels, which I still love, and I heard one of the guys going off saying that George Zimmerman is basically black folks' fault because Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr., a boxer, got in an argument at a boxing match. I'm going to repeat that. I'm going to clarify that. I believe his exact stance was, Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr. are out here arguing with each other. But if George Zimmerman walked in that building in D.C., all you black folks wouldn't have done nothing, right? Which is like the weirdest equivalent. I don't even understand how those two things are parallel. For one, Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr. got in an argument, a shouting match. If these are two white folks, we wouldn't even call this a fight. We'd probably call it somewhere between a dust up and a kerfuffle, right? Definitely wasn't a slobber knocker, wasn't a barn burner, nothing of the sort. Wasn't even a pushing match. It wasn't a chest bump match. They didn't even get that close to each other. It was a shouting match between a couple of rows of chairs at a boxing event. The real question should have been, why the hell did they pause the action for an argument at a boxing event? I know black people are loud, but come on. Come on. It wasn't that deep. It wasn't that serious. And if you don't believe me that it wasn't that deep and it wasn't that serious, and it certainly didn't warrant a comparison of us allowing George Zimmerman to walk. I don't even know where that even went. It was a stretch. Then let's go no further than our House of Congress, owned, operated, and ran by white folks, professional white folks in business suits, the white folks that we're supposed to be comparing to us ignorant niggas, right? These are congressmen and women, rich people just like Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr., right? Only they're at work on national TV. And look at this picture. Oh my, it looks like this white man needs to be restrained physically. This white man was more perturbed and more irate and more dogged to get into a physical altercation at this white professional political event than Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr. were, right? But did you hear a single white person or a single person talking about, oh, see, y'all out here acting like some nigga. Oh, see, look, this is why we white folks can't get ahead, right? You don't never see white folks taking bad behavior by a few white folks and extrapolating that out to the entire group and saying, this is why we ain't shit. You'll never catch any other group do that because nobody else thinks like that, because that doesn't make sense. Doesn't make sense at all. Secondly, George Floyd, I mean, George Floyd, George Zimmerman was the most protected man in white America at the height of his killing spree. Lest we forget that, right? See, black folks always want to ask this question, and I want to make a separate episode for it if I really could. Black folks always want to ask this question: how come black folks got so much smoke for other black folks, but they don't do that with white folks? Which is a dumbass question, because you know good and hell goddamn well white niggas ain't coming at white folks like that, because the white folks got a military, right? Treat a white person from the upper crust of society like you treat a nigger from your hood, and see how quickly the police show up at your door with all 5 stars of Grand Theft Auto lit up. We acting like George Zimmerman didn't kill a kid, an unarmed kid, and get off on a trial and auction off the gun that he killed the kid with after getting caught red-handed and get congratulations letters from the damn state police. That nigga was supported by the police. George Zimmerman shot at somebody again. Another white dude. Him and another white dude got in a shootout and an argument. And guess what happened to that white dude? That white dude went to jail. George Zimmerman done beat his wife. His girlfriend and came out and said he's a crazy person and an abuser. He still done got a pass. That is the most protected man in America. So you're wondering why? I mean, attacking George Zimmerman is almost as good as attacking a cop. So when you're asking black folks, oh, y'all got that much smoke for each other, but you ain't got that smoke for George Zimmerman, who nobody brought up before that. Nigga, George Zimmerman's a cop. Of course you're not going to run up on the police and have the police and the feds on your ass. Who would do that? Same for 6ix9ine. People, oh, y'all got all that smoke for all these black rappers, but y'all don't run up on 6ix9ine like that. 6ix9ine got professional security. All the rappers, black or white, with professional security don't get ran up on because they got professional security. It's not, oh, we can't run up on another on a different race. We always love to cherry pick things in order to come to that conclusion of how come we got so much smoke for each other, but we don't got no smoke for the white man. Knowing good and hell well the police is going to get immediately involved. Knowing good and hell well the whole white folks is going to move and change whole rules around to get your black ass. Did you not, since we're bringing up shit that ain't got shit to do with anything, since we bringing up George fucking Zimmerman, right? Y'all remember? There's so many I can't remember the name. Y'all remember the girl that got shot in her apartment? It wasn't Antia Jefferson. It was the other one. Shot and killed in her apartment. And after the entire trial, the only thing they did was give some money to the neighbors whose dog got grazed by the bullet and their apartment door got shot. They was literally letting you know how little your black ass is worth. And then you want to ask why niggas wouldn't come at George Zimmerman with any smoke if they seen him, because Meek Mill and Gary Russell Jr. got in an argument, a non-physical, non-violent altercation about a sporting match. Niggas got the highest of highest standards for black behavior to justify why black folks is in a bad position or why we get treated like shit. Meanwhile, you got whole world wars. We about to go to nuclear war. We about to go to nuclear war on made up shit. Everybody's all messed up drugs and shit like that. All this bad shit going on in white society to the point where white folks is complaining, but we still over here talking shit about niggas. And I use all that to segue in this MLK talk, because I think it's important that we start being honest about how we let MLK legacy slip away from us as black folks, and we start letting other people use his legacy to dictate things for themselves. And we've completely lost what the story is about him. MLK's assassination alone is one of the most fascinating things in American history, more than anybody else, even more than assassinated presidents, because of one key thing. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination is the only assassination in American history where your government admitted fault and nobody talks about it. No, actually, strike that. Strike that. He's the only one where your federal government admitted that they did it. Fred Hampton, your state and local police openly admitted that they shot him, and for no reason. We couldn't have a black nigger leader. They just flat out told you. They didn't even try to be coy at that point in the 60s. But Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated by the highest levels of your U.S. federal government. And that's not a conspiracy theory. That's not a rumor. That's not innuendo. That's not saying that they allowed this. This is documented, proven, and admitted by your government in a U.S. 1999 court case. The King family won this. Like nobody knows this. Nobody talks about this, but this is an open fact. This is why I have an episode called What is a Conspiracy Theory? And I said the reason why I don't like Joe Rogan's show or the people that are on Joe Rogan's show is because you got 1,494 episodes talking about the Kennedy assassination, where they pretend like they're wondering what happened and what's going on and what is our government up to. But if you look at the Martin Luther King assassination, they flat out told you what happened, how they did it. There's no mystery. It was admitted to the point to where they just settled out of court. They asked the proceedings to stop, and they just said, okay, we'll admit it. The King family sued for $1 because they wanted to make a point that it wasn't about money. That is the most amazing and most important assassination in American history. Your government admitted they did that shit. And we're so not aware of it that the very organization that killed him be having commemorative Martin Luther King Day tweets and shit every year. Like they didn't do it. We don't talk about that with him. You know the rumor, the unfounded, untrue rumor that prevails about Martin Luther King that niggas are comfortable talking about in barbershops and shit? I already had a bunch of white bitches on the side. Mm-hmm. Black folks never, you never need proof about any accusation about black folks if it's negative. You ever notice that? You can hand wave anything dismissing an accusation, a negative accusation about a black person. You don't even got to use a word. All you got to do is make a sound. Mm-hmm. They never even really proved OJ did it. People just told you how much of an abusive asshole he was and said, come on. I mean, come on. All right. Look, come on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He did it. We were supposed to ignore the fact that the nigga that magically found the evidence had been proven to be tampering with the evidence and had been proven to be a racist motherfucker who was known for planting evidence on black people. That's just a coincidence. We were supposed to ignore that shit. They really didn't even prove Bill Cosby did anything. Keep it real with you. But you don't really need proof on black people if it's negative, because everybody will believe anything negative about black people, especially black men. And oh, what a fitting, funny tale would it be if Martin Luther King had himself a case of jungle fever, right? Which, let's just say he did, right? Let's just say he did. Would that make anything else that he was saying about what was going on in the times with black folks and housing and jobs and segregation and police brutality and us coming to get our check, would that make anything he was saying automatically untrue? Exactly. So that in and of itself is a dodge. And then you put back on all of that, the fact that it wasn't, and the fact that what the truth was who freaking killed him. If you're talking about James Earl Ray, you're not up to speed. You're not up to speed. And why is that important? Because I know some asshole out there is going to go, well, I mean, that's so far in the past. Why is that important? Is because the reason why that's important is because when you don't control narrative, your heroes can be taken from you and used against you. The moral of the story of Martin Luther King and what really happened with King gets lost in the sauce when MLK becomes so whitewashed as he's been. Like, think about it. What is the moral of the story of MLK that they tell you? Oh, he taught people nonviolence. Like that was the thing he was going around doing. Hey, everybody, quit fighting all the damn time. I had a dream. Bye. They make it sound like Martin Luther King was born, told you he had a dream, and then grew wings and flew off into the sunset with Jesus. They leave out the part. Where they killed him. And that's for two reasons. One, there's no way you can explain how you, as a society, not James Earl Ray. See, it's always a lone wolf when they don't want to take blame for something. Not James Earl Ray. How your highest institutions, as a reflection of your society, because I don't want to just blame this on those institutions, because white folks at large were happy as shit when Martin Luther King got killed. You don't believe me? See, don't fall for any of the fake stuff that they put up now in the age of political correctness. Go look at what they said about Martin Luther King on the day he got killed, on the day they buried him. Look at what they were saying about Martin Luther King. See, these are the things that you're supposed to memorize and keep in the front of your memory banks, because they haven't changed. They haven't changed. There's two reasons why they don't want you to realize what happened to King. One, it shows you that it wasn't no damn lone wolf that killed MLK. Your whole society at large worked together to kill MLK. There was alphabets. There was mafia members carrying out the execution and everything. Two, and this is the big doozy, they never tell you about the forbidden riot. They're not even allowed to mention this on the news. You will never, ever hear these three words uttered on the news. I might even get a strike over even bringing it up. Whenever you hear about the MLK assassination, you will never hear the words Holy Week riot ever mentioned. The Holy Week riots made the 1990s Rodney King riots look like Freaknik. It made the George Floyd riots look like a breakdancing competition. Look them up. They said it was the biggest attack on American soil from sea to burning sea since the Civil War. One thing about niggas in America, niggas be everywhere. And when you kill the most educated, nicest, most accomplished, most determined, most well-polished Negro that Negroes can produce, when you kill him the way you killed him, it sends a message from the most clean-cut HBCU attending Brooks Brothers suit wearing black person to the most thuggish, ruggish nigga on the street that there's no compromising with these people. See, when black folks saw that, all hope was lost of dealing with these people. See, there's a reason why when you look up the date of the assassination of Martin Luther King, and then you look up the date of the passage of the 1960s Civil Rights Era Bill, Modern times, you'll think, just logically, oh, well, his death served as a catalyst for getting the bill passed. No. That civil rights bill was dead on arrival before he even got killed. It was not popular. The Democrats was not running on it. They was hiding from it. But you'll notice it's a couple weeks apart from his assassination to the passage of that bill. And no, that wasn't because white folks felt bad. See, that's the story that they like to tell black people now. Oh, well, we felt bad kicking y'all ass so much. And, after we killed your guy, we kind of felt a little guilty. So we said, we'll give these niggers some civil rights. And we all joined hands. We had a Coke. And it was good. That ain't what happened at all. When they killed MLK, black folks everywhere in the country turned all the way the hell up. And there was not a single white group, not a Klan, not the police. None of them could deal with that. Because you can't control a bunch of people that have all of a sudden gone insane. Niggas had officially had enough. Why do you think they called it the Holy Week? Black folks didn't give it that name. They called it the Holy Week riots because white folks thought, oh, God, this is the end of times. This is it. White folks were calling this Armageddon. They were like, this is how we end the world. We finally pushed them too far. And now we're going to finally, this is white folks saying this back then. We finally pushed the Negro too far, and we're going to get what we deserve. Because deep down, them white folks knew they had that shit coming. Decent white folks sitting around that know right from wrong, but was sitting idly by, letting these people do all this horrible shit to black folks. They knew, man, one day these niggas are going to have enough. They'd seen it happen before. It happens every 100 years or so with black folks. We finally get enough and they go, all right, we'll give you this and this. Calm down. All right, sorry about that. And that's exactly what happened in the 60s. And they don't tell you that, is that black folks got what they needed to get at that time through violence. This is why they always emphasize and exaggerate MLK's nonviolent talk. You didn't have to keep telling black folks to be nonviolent. He wasn't going around his claim to fame was, oh, all right, black folks, calm down. Black folks didn't need calming down. We were the ones getting our asses kicked, trying to do peaceful demonstrations. The whole strategy was, we're going to show the world how savage these goddamn white folks are. How just a nigga showing up for lunch will make a whole crew of white folks come up and try to beat the shit out of somebody with fire hoses and police dogs. This is what they need to maintain this order. They let the world see that, and it embarrassed America. Black folks didn't need to be told not to be violent. Black folks didn't have a history of having violence towards white folks back then like that. How? if you're lynching niggas for not getting off the sidewalk when a white person walked by, who do you think's committing crimes against white folks back in that era? So why would MLK need to tell black folks to be nonviolent? No, he was trying to tell white folks to be nonviolent. He was showing white folks how their violence can backfire. But when they killed him, black folks had felt like this nonviolent stuff don't work. There's a book written by a black man, and forgive me, I'm going off the top, so I don't remember his name. The book is called This Nonviolent Stuff Will Get You Killed. And that's the last thing that this black man was one of the first black men, I think he was the first black man to vote, to actually push his vote forward in that era. And of course, they were trying to intimidate him at the polls and do all this kind of shit, and they shot at him. And this nigga shot back. They weren't expecting that. See, and that wasn't the lesson that they wanted black folks to get was, oh, if you want to get your rights, you got to go get a gun. They didn't want to promote that line of thinking. But he met MLK. And MLK was talking about that nonviolence. See, because MLK knew black folks were getting tired of the bullshit. But MLK felt like these white folks are trying to push you into a violent confrontation so that they can justify killing everybody. He didn't like our chances in a war. He wanted to get the stuff done with as little bloodshed as possible. But like that man told MLK, this nonviolent stuff will get you killed. You need to go get you a gun. See, they exaggerate all that nonviolence talk about MLK as if that was his claim to fame, was he was just, having people calm down. They exaggerate Gandhi's influence on MLK. He was only really talking about Gandhi as a strategy. Gandhi was racist against blacks as shit. They highly exaggerate the whole nonviolence talk with MLK. They leave out the part where MLK had applied for a gun license. They denied his black ass, of course. J. Edgar Hoover did it personally. Yeah, Martin Luther King wasn't above popping somebody's ass if it came between him and his family. We need to talk about every Martin Luther King holiday whenever the FBI or whoever makes a tweet about we're honoring King. We're going to remember him and remember them suicide letters you sent to him. I remember you guys was threatening him, right before he magically died. Died from murder, right? We're not going to sit here and let you guys patty cake around what the hell happened. We're not going to play them games. And the subject I'm talking about now and the subject I was talking about at the beginning of this show are related because what we do with black people is, I'm going to tell you exactly what we do with black people. Like in a TV show when they have like a stereotypical bully and the bully takes the little kid that he's bullying and he grabs the kid's arms and starts smacking the kid with his own arms. And then he asks the kid, why are you hitting yourself? Technically that's a dumbass question, right? Because I'm not hitting myself. You're hitting me with my own arms. You're stronger than me. You're bigger than me. And this is a funny play on the words. And you're asking me why I'm hitting myself when you know good and hell well I'm not hitting myself, right? It's the most rhetorical of rhetorical questions, right? We do that with black people. We sit here and we see all of these obvious ass, overwhelming ass, big ass obstacles that are in black people's way and things that black people and only black people have to deal with, right? And then we'll ask black people dumbass questions. You sitting here watching George Zimmerman walking around with the entire white society's military and police force backing him up in case anything go wrong or if anybody touch this nigga, right? Let's go even further than that. The cop that killed George Floyd. This is why I was going to mention George Floyd. The cop that killed George Floyd. They made a special rule. Now, when niggas go to jail, when niggas go to prison, you are subject to whatever kind of wardens and other predatory ass prisoners are up in that damn precinct. You are thrown into the wild. That's what happens, right? You remember I mentioned Smiley in them California prisons. Go look that one up. That's gruesome. They used to use that black dude as a gladiator in the prisons to torture other prisoners that they didn't like. That's the kind of shit that you're subjugated to if you're a black prisoner. But if you're a white cop and you finally go to jail for getting caught red-handed, killing a nigga on TV, strangling him to death for 9 minutes, all that big ass trial, and they made a special open rule that no black prison guards can be on the floor that cop is being held at. The whole floor. Ain't no black prison guards even really going to be trying nothing because they're just going to do their job. But just in case, the entire white society is going to do the last throes of whatever it can to protect this white man. And then they tried to put him in federal custody. So he'd be in Club Fed, where it'd be a nicer, lower security. He'd be safer around more white prisoners. Tried everything they could to keep that man as safe as possible, even while in prison. We know this is how this shit works. But then we ask goofy questions. Well, y'all wouldn't have that smoke for George Zimmerman. Of course I'm not going to get in an argument with George Zimmerman at a boxing match. That nigga can kill me without getting convicted. He has a license to kill. Whenever white folks start doing something to y'all, y'all turn your cameras on. Y'all don't want to fight that white person. Knowing good and hell well, if I fight that white person and I treat that white person like I treat this nigga, he don't got nigga code. A nigga will take his ass whooping and go home. A nigga will take his ass whooping and go home. I shouldn't have been talking shit. Worst he gonna do, he gonna come back around the corner on a nigga. But it's gonna stay nigger business. Treat that white person like you treat another nigga and watch how fast the police show up. Remember that black dude, that big juicy gay black dude that was arguing with a white woman about bird watching and how quickly she knew to call the cops and say there's a big scary black man here? Do you know what would have happened to that dude if he didn't record that shit? That's why niggas record when they get interactions with white people. They got to protect themselves. When you're dealing with white folks, you're dealing with a whole lot more than just physical defense you got to put up. You got to protect yourself from the law. That white person get caught doing some shit, you got some legal protections if you got proof. Another nigga do something to you, ain't nobody coming. Ain't nobody gonna do nothing. Like, what? It's another nigga. What you gonna sue him for what? Police might not even show up. We know good and hell well why black folks, quote unquote, ain't got that smoke for other groups. Hell, New York City, an Asian could walk up and slap you in front of your mama on Mother's Day, and you can't even get mad. You'll get hit with a goddamn hate crime. Are you hating Asians? Are you better not, nigga. In New York City, there was an Asian woman who got beat up by somebody who wasn't even black. There were black people working and standing nearby who didn't intervene, and they tried to charge them niggas with a crime, with a hate crime. I'm going to repeat that. They tried to charge black folks who were near a crime involving an Asian victim with a crime for not intervening. See, these other groups throw the law at niggas, and then we pretend like, oh, niggas is just scared. Niggas is just scary. Even the Latinos. Look in LA County, where you got Mexican gang members firebombing regular civilian black people's homes. And you would think, oh, niggas is just being scared. They ain't got that smoke for other groups. Shout out to the local black gangs there. They have been fighting back. And guess what happens the instant they do? Guess what happens the instant the black gang members try to do their right racial due diligence and stand up for the black civilians in the community? Guess what happens? They get hit with gang injunctions. Only them. The Mexican, the Hispanic gangs, the same niggas writing gang signs on walls, throwing up gang signs with gang the same gangs, they don't get attacked because they're immigrant groups. And this is a sanctuary city. But let them black folks go run it back on them niggas for firebombing some black civilians' homes. They get hit on gang injunctions and nuisance charges. This is why black folks are getting ran out of LA. This is how black folks are targeted from getting ran out of LA. But what we do as niggas, and this is the most niggerish thing you can do, is always blame niggas. What we do is we see the black condition and we create black pathology to justify it. You see niggas on the street in Skid Row in LA and go, look at these lazy niggas over here gang banging, but they don't even own the block. They don't own the... Meanwhile, in reality, even the white folks know, yeah, we created some rules to, make it really hard for them to have businesses out here, really hard for them to live out here. And at the same time, we're making rules that make it really easy for all these immigrants to go. We're literally busing immigrants in. We're replacing these Negroes. White folks know what's actually happening systematically, but niggas We internalize it. Oh, shit, these niggas, I eat watermelons and shit like that. We are horrible with causality, even though it's right in front of our face. Which brings me back to MLK and leaders like him. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was murdered by your government because they didn't like the fact that black folks were getting really organized. They didn't like the fact that you had what do you have today? They openly call them now what they used to call people in dossiers within intelligence communities back then, which was influencer. If you're a celebrity, if you're an activist, if you're an athlete, if you're somebody popular that garners a lot of attention from people to where your words can carry weight, you have some sort of a platform, you were known as an influencer. And now they openly call you that. That's intelligence agency speak, influencer. You can influence a crowd to do something. How you control people is you control the influencers. That's why you have influence. That's the real. What was the real reason Muhammad Ali got stripped of his belt and went to jail? They make it sound like it was just because he wouldn't involve himself in the draft. The real reason, because celebrities get sidestepped out of the draft all the damn time. Muhammad Ali wouldn't have had to serve one day in jail or one day in the army if he would have just promoted the war. You don't believe me? Go back and look at propaganda from Joe Louis. White folks love them some Joe Louis because of two reasons. One, Joe Louis was told as a point, do not celebrate when you knock out these white boxers. Jack Johnson had finally fallen, and if they were going to have a new black champion, you better follow some rules, and you better not be showboating when you beat a white man. That was rule one. Joe Louis held back in his life, and he was accomplished as accomplished as he was. He held back because he wasn't supposed to embarrass white folks too much. And rule number two was you promote our wars and our way of life. Joe Louis is in every pro-war piece of propaganda back in this era. And Muhammad Ali was supposed to do the same. But Muhammad Ali, who was a big influencer, spoke down on that, particularly from an angle of race. And who was influencing the influencer? It wasn't your government. It was the Nation of Islam. It was Malcolm X. It's a big problem. You can't have such an influential person like Muhammad Ali, that's your heavyweight champion in the world, being influenced by the teachings of Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X. And no, he's supposed to be our guy that we influence so that he could tell the Negroes that listen to him, hey, you make sure you sign up for that military. Go fight them Vietnam. Go fight them Viet Cong, I mean. But when you got that guy saying, ain't no Viet Cong call me nigger, and what's up with these water fountains? Oh, that's a problem. When you got that dude who's represented by Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam going into a room to go talk to Martin Luther King and his Christian leadership, and well, wait a minute, what are all these Negroes talking about? They weren't even coy about it. Remember Malcolm X? Remember Martin Luther King and Muhammad Ali went in a room to have a chat. You know, that wasn't like a press conference or nothing, right? They just went in a room and white folks just saw them. And when they came out, news reporters said, hey, what are you guys talking about? Think about that for a minute. Think about that for a minute. I told you before, when Martin Luther King went to go meet, the president, and he straight up told him, oh, why don't you just let me call you a nigger? I mean, you are a nigger. What's the problem with that? I mean, you look like a nigger. And Martin Luther King had to let him know. I'm the king of the niggers. We can all boycott your buses and mess up your money, your revenue streams, your taxes. We could all not cooperate. We can sit in on any of your businesses. We could ruin your whole show. You've seen how much we've been tearing things up, and we ain't even really lifted a finger. All we do is show up. So you got to show me respect. And Lyndon B. Johnson had to show him respect. The niggers are a major contingency out here in America. That's what he had to realize. And even he had to realize, man, look how hard we've been on these niggas to make you white folks be competitive. These are the things we don't talk about when we ask dumbass questions like we do about black folks and how black folks move and all this kind of shit, knowing why, knowing the real reason why. Oh, you wouldn't have that smoke for white folk, knowing good and hell well niggas been getting lynched and shot at and shot up and arrested for like we seen Kyle Rittenhouse shoot a nigga and get the softest trial you could ever imagine and become a white society folk hero. And that was against another white person. You know, if that was a nigga, that shit wouldn't even have went to trial if he'd have shot and killed a nigga. We done seen Tamir Rice get shot for having a toy gun. And we ask why black folks don't got that smoke for white folks when they confront. But are you kidding me? They shot and killed the most peaceful, educated nigga we could produce. I don't want to hear shit about black folks' behavior when we get shot no more. You can't get no more well-behaved than MLK. That's why I always talk about people saying, oh man, we quit getting shot. We pick our pants up and say, nigga, they shot MLK wearing a double-breasted suit and some finely polished wingtips and a beautiful fedora hat. That man was dressed to the nines, as he always was. Go look at some pictures of King and Coretta. They was fly as shit. Fly as shit. Now, does this mean that we can never try to achieve nothing? That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying be mindful of what the situation is when we down us for where we've been and how far we've come. You don't get a better worst to first story than niggas, even right now. And we have this weird black pathology fantasy double standard storyline of hypocrisy that does not make sense. And y'all know it's true. They literally had a rule on the book that was like crack cocaine 100 to 1. You'll get 100 times more years for having crack cocaine than having regular cocaine because they knew niggas had crack cocaine. Which is funny because we all know crack cocaine got what? Less cocaine in it. It's cocaine mixed with a bunch of legal, regular house products. You can't make crack without cocaine. The more cocaine you have, the more crack you can make. So wouldn't you want to go after the cocaine guy? No, because niggas have crack. People always talk about niggas. Oh, niggas out here dealing drugs. Okay. We're stupid. We deal drugs. We're dumb. We're small-minded. How are our stupid, small, dumb, small-minded asses getting international counterban? We're getting it from somebody else, right? So shouldn't we go after that group? No, because we know who that group is. We have dumb double standards for us. And then when things like this, like the MLK assassination and the true assassins and the true reason for the assassination pops up right in our face, we're not allowed to talk about it because of what it implies, right? Because of what it implies. You don't get no more obvious of the game ain't stacked fair than what happened to MLK. It's not no conspiracy theory. We know exactly who did it. Lloyd Jowers, right? Like we can run down the list right now. Like we can run down the list right now. I got time. Earl Clark of the Memphis police is the man who fired the fatal shot on MLK. He fired from a nearby tree up into MLK's balcony while he began the speech. That Reverend Abernathy's punk ass set MLK up for and slipped and admitted in a speech later on, years later. That's how they set you. Hey, brother, why don't you come on, man, go out the balcony and talk to the people. And you go out there and they setting your ass up. Only as I moved away so that they could get a clear shot. Oops. Earl Clark, Memphis Police Department, had a black girlfriend. She was on the stand. Even when the white prosecutor asked this black chick, why would you do that and help kill MLK? He was going to free your people. Do you know what that bedwench said? On the stand. I was already free. I had a white man. Lloyd Jowers. Mafia member Frank Liberto. Yeah, James Earl Ray was just a goddamn getaway driver. He wasn't nobody major in the situation. And this lets you know how high it went. They helped him escape from jail, just opened up the jail so he could just walk out so that he could go commit this crime, so they could look like some crazed, angry white man, a lone wolf, escaped from jail and didn't know. And like I told you, this is all proven, admitted, and confirmed in a court case in 1999. They exhumed MLK's body to do the forensics to verify this shit. This wasn't no game. Do you know that the gun that they found James Earl Ray with don't even match the bullet that was in MLK? This is the stuff I'm talking about. But if you go to a barbershop, the only rumors you'll ever hear about MLK is, I heard he used to mess with white women. Yeah, I heard he used to have a dream about them white women. That lets you know how strong the narrative is against us. That's the only assassination on record where your government admitted, we did that. Imagine if they did that with JFK. In 2023, there's still slow dripping Mr. Coffee and information and giving you redacted papers. And this is after the 60-year Freedom of Information Act demanded release and all that shit. They still not telling you stuff that they knew about when it came to the Oswald who killed JFK. Imagine if they just came out and said, yeah, we did it. JFK wouldn't support the war. We killed his ass. We made it look like it was Oswald. Oswald didn't know shit. It was this agent and that agent and this agent. We were standing by a tree. There was no grassy knoll. You know that guy with the umbrella? He was a distraction. Really, the person was over here. Imagine if they said all that shit and just confirmed it. Everything added up, and then they just closed the case and we never talked about it again. That's what happened with MLK. We don't got to speculate about who's the Jack Ruby or none of that shit. We know exactly how MLK really died and what that implicates, but we just don't talk about it. Talk about the rumor with him and white bitches though all day, right? Because that's safe. Our real problem is with our lack of leadership and political representation at the top. There's no amount of respectability politics and non-twerking and pulling up our pants and not wearing bonnets that's going to fix black people's real problems from community to community. There's no amount of non-gangbanging that'll fix that shit. None. Louds County, Alabama, still got sewage rolling around the streets. East St. Louis still got sewage rolling around the streets. There's no amount of non-gangbanging that's going to take the lead out your pipes, right? And remember in Mississippi, when they tried to blame the mayor, was his name, Lumumba, for what was going on in Mississippi and the water. They was trying to blame the mayor and call it incompetence and corruption. Then it came out Brett Favre spent all the goddamn money on his daughter's weak ass tennis matches. They built her a tennis court or some shit. They were literally diverting money that was supposed to go to the poorest people in Mississippi and giving it to Brett Favre's rich ass. The story lost all its air the second you couldn't blame black folks for their own problems. Does this mean that we don't got to take responsibility for anything? Of course not. Of course not. Does this mean that we are our own worst enemies and we are to blame for everything? No, that's asinine. And you know what's an easy way to tell if it's an asinine idea or not? Simply look around. If the other groups do it too, that can't be the reason, right? That can't be the reason. Niggas that love talk about black on black crime. And I love to ask this one question. Do other groups commit crimes against their own people? Yes or no? Yeah, but when black, so they do. Okay. Is it in a significantly lower amount? No, it's the same. Okay. So then that can't be the problem. That's process of elimination right there. Right there. We'll sit there and talk about black on black crime, and then we'll see a white person do those crimes and not get the same result and be like, so anyway, black on black crime. There was a white boy. I can't remember his name, but he joined the Crips. He was all in the little videos with the niggas and shit like that, throwing up the gang signs. He was totally down. He was so down, in fact, that they used him to shoot some nigga. Caught him red-handed. Him and his niggas. They shot some black dude who didn't even gangbang, right? They shot an innocent black dude. The white boy, who was a gang member, shot an innocent non-gang member black person in the name of his gang. That is known as gang banging, right? They let the white boy off. Well, he knows not what he do. Those niggers influenced him. That's literally what they let him off for. His dad was a lawyer. like you got caught doing what niggas do. You got caught nigging it up and you get away with it. So clearly it can't be that. It can't be that. Your problem is your leadership. You have no representation. We all saw what them LA council members, those Hispanics said about the black leadership that was represented. They were talking about their black counterparts. And what were they saying? We're going to eat their lunch. Them black people are all them black political representation is paper tigers. They're tokens put up there by white folks to look diverse and multicultural. We're going to eat their lunch. We know what we want. They don't even advocate for their people. We're going to advocate for our people. This is for La Raza. And I asked y'all, I said, where's our black counterpart for that? Where's our Maxine Waters going, to hell with them essays? I'm doing this for my niggas. Where's our counterpart for that? They killed all those people. They erased all those black folks. And they told you, no black messiahs that we don't make. We're going to give you some token niggas that look like you got representation. Here, take this Ilhan Omar. We're going to give you some niggas that look like, here, take Maxine Waters, give you Hakeem Jeffries. Hell, we even throw in a Sheila Jackson Lee. But you can't have no real competent niggas with no real politics on their mind. We'll kill them. Look at the stuff your black leaders even talk about. How you going to get mad at black people, regular ass black people twerking and shit like that, and then look around and your black leaders are twerking? You got black congressional leaders doing headstands and doing stiff, awkward twerking positions. These are your leaders. You show me the white senator or white Congress member that's making their little crusty ass cheeks clap in front of white folks. They'll vote that nigga out that day. Recall. Not going to make us look like some damn chimps. That's at the top. The top is told not to be serious. It's important to remember on MLK Day what they did to him and what we did back. That Holy Week riot, that's a forbidden conversation because they don't want you to see that they had to capitulate, that they had to surrender. So that shit was like Fight Club. Remember what they told that dude in Fight Club? About how the queen is the one that's really trapped? We're the one that wash your clothes, that park your cars, that guard your doors. We see you when you sleep. That was black folks. This is why immediately after, almost in tandem, almost at the same damn time pretty much, that you got your civil rights bill in the 60s, they also introduced the immigration bill. They knew they were going to have to bring in some scabs. They knew they were going to have to bring in some ringers, because black folks collectively in an organized fashion was saying, we are going to affect all matters of industry out here. We're everywhere within your economy. Integrated, segregated or not. Remember, black folks was doing all this damage to a white economy while being segregated. I've said it before and I'll say it again. What's the one thing in this country since niggas started making money that's never been segregated? The taxes. There ain't never been no separate Negro tax. Oh, we don't want nothing. We don't want nothing to do with you niggas. We don't even want to drink out the same water fountain as you niggas. We don't want to eat at the same restaurants as you niggas. We don't want to be in the same bathrooms as you niggas. Oh. But leave your nigger money right there for all of us. We all share together. All right. Just no. We'll mix it all in. Go ahead. Come on. If there's some little curly hairs in there, that's fine. Just drop your taxes right there. You never thought about how weird that was? See, and this is where celebrating Black History Month and celebrating Martin Luther King Day, but we don't really remember. The whole point of these holidays is to memorize, is to memorialize, is to remember things, but we don't remember these details that just came from our grandparents and shit. You would think we would pass this down through oral history, right? But no one talks about this. Black folks, anybody listen to this, if you take nothing from this hours-long conversation, understand this. Martin Luther King was not fighting so that you guys could hug arm in arm with white folks. That was just some nice shit he said in the speech to paint a picture of us reaching that point because we're equal. But see, and this is how white folks took that characterization of him and ran with it. This is why all your rules about equality and shit are meaningless, non-tangible rules about, well, you guys can sit next to us and look, we're in a picture and we're multicultural and we're diverse and we've hired at least 2 black. No, that's not what he was fighting for. That's not what black folks were fighting for at that time. What black folks were fighting for over at that time was, hey, you're taking all of our Negro taxes and you're spending it on white people. If we're paying the same damn taxes, how is it that your school is super nice and my school's messed up? I don't want to share a water fountain with you. I want my water fountain to be as nice as your water fountain. We're paying the same taxes. People act like they was just marching so that they could be friends with white folks. They was marching under real bills like the Fair Housing Act. Housing. Why are our spots messed up? See, people act like white folks wasn't on public housing and stuff back then. Theirs was just nicer. The white side of town was nicer because of money and resources stolen from and denied to black people. That's what niggas was marching for back then. That was the equality we were talking about. They exaggerate black folks trying to eat at restaurants and black folks trying to drink at water fountains to make it seem like white people was just being mean to them and that's what we want. We just want you guys to be nicer to us. Just share a Coke. No. Niggas was saying, fine, be over there. But give me my cut for what I'm putting in. See, they play that I have a dream speech. They don't play that we're coming to get our check speech on Martin Luther King Day, do they? Where he sat there and told you how they coddled incoming white immigrants and taught them how to farm and paid them not to have to farm. Look at how many country boy. Cliven Bundy. Y'all remember Cliven Bundy? The dude that was trying to go to war with the federal government because they was trying to move his cattle and all that shit. And they was trying to make him a folk hero amongst the white folks until he started talking too much racist shit. Remember Cliven Bundy? Cliven Bundy is one of them lazy, good-for-nothing, inbred white folk that they handed everything he's ever owned to him, and they pay him money not to farm. He don't farm, grow, produce not one single goddamn thing. He has a bunch of fat fucking cattle that run around grazing on other people's land. He bought land. He bought land where they give him a deal where they don't want him farming on that land. So he just sits on that land. He was given that shit. You got U.S. representatives like, I think he's a senator, Tom Cotton, whose the nigga's last name is Cotton. Don't ever trust a white dude whose last name is Cotton, who've been given plantations, all kinds of slave owning and slave exploiting in his family, who on record calls slavery a necessary evil. And you don't look at that and go, oh, look how offensive that word was. You look at that and go, gotcha, bitch. Because now you just admitted that exploiting us through the government on record is the only way your punk ass could have ever got ahead. That's what necessary means. It means needed, it means required, it means essential, it means foundational. How dare we? And you owe for that. You owe for that. Martin Luther King knew that. These are the things he was fighting for. But when they kill you and your people aren't riding for you, right, Nipsey Hussle? They can change everything you was talking about into whatever they want you to talk about. And the thing white folks keep everybody focused on is Martin Luther King and his nonviolence, his nonviolence. His nonviolence. I'm going to close out on this episode, do a little too much first time back. And I want to give you a few more episodes back to back. So I just want to close out on that on King and just kind of make it clear that, this holiday slips away from us. This holiday and the meaning behind it slips away from us. And that'll let you know how some of these older holidays, the true meanings have been lost in the sauce, right? Holidays are supposed to be about memorializing, not grandstanding. And what we do on MLK Day does not honor MLK. What we do on MLK Day is sit back and listen to a couple of speeches and we see pictures of him everywhere and then we move on. If we was really honoring Dr. King right now, a flash riot would be the appropriate way to honor. Let's keep it real. You know what holiday we never, ever, ever, ever get mixed up and get mixed and lost in the sauce on the meaning and memorializing how it was done here in America? 4th of July. 4th of July doesn't turn into hey, today's the day that we honor our forefathers in a silent, peaceful, commemorative moment to show our appreciation for their side. No. 4th of July, we pop off fireworks to represent guns and bombs because that's how we got this shit. That's what the fireworks are for. It's to make the scene just like the Revolutionary War. Trying to make them rockets red glare. We dishonor MLK by letting these creeping, constant lies and rumors stick up about him. But the truth sitting right there, provable on document, and we don't ever talk about it. That should be brought up every year. Every year, MLK Day come up. Hey, let's talk about how that assassination went down and who was culpable and how that court case was settled. Let's talk about that every year. Everybody gather around the fireplace. Old Uncle Joey's going to sit here and tell you a tale. Signing out.